Hi, I'm Cal here today with Scheffler Vehicle Lifetime Solutions. We're filming at ECS Tuning, and today we're going to show you how to replace the water pump assembly in a Mark 8 Golf R. Let's get into it. Today for parts, we're using a Scheffler water pump kit. Included is the thermal management module. That's like the thermostat, all the valving to get the coolant where it needs to go. Scheffler is actually the OE manufacturer for this part, so it's a great option to use. It also includes the belt, the one-time use fastener, and the coupler to get to the oil cooler. Next, we'll go take a look at what tools we'll need to get the job done. All right, so some of the tools we're going to use today are going to be 1/4-inch ratchets and a 3/8 ratchet with a variety of extensions. Specifically, we're going to use the T30 Torx bit a lot with the intake manifold and everything related to the water pump. We used a T20 to get the bottom shield off, along with an Allen 5 key for those larger bolts on the back. One of the largest things is that conical bolt that holds the water pump belt pulley in. We did have this special tool that we used that allowed us to get in there and torque it to spec. We used a handful of clips and picks to get the electrical connectors. We used a flathead screwdriver to get some of the worm clamps and some of the other things. So let's get into it. All right, step one is to drain the coolant. So we went ahead and removed the radiator cap up top after letting the car cool down. Next, we're gonna get off the belly pan. This is an ECS Tuning Street Shield. So there is some extra hardware, but it's T20s and 5mm Allen keys to get this down. And then that'll give us access to the bottom of the radiator to drain the coolant. For our sake, we're gonna go ahead and remove this ECS Tuning intercooler pipe so that we can better access the radiator hose to drain the coolant. Next, we're gonna disconnect this radiator hose from the radiator. To do that, we went ahead and disconnected the little sensor up here, and now we gotta pull out this little clip so we can remove it from the radiator. All right, now that the coolant's drained, we went ahead and removed the cold air intake. Next, we're gonna remove the intake manifold. It's not necessary to remove it to get the water pump module out, but we're gonna do that today for ease of filming and to show you everything that's going on under there. So we've got our T30 1/4-inch taped to the extension so we don't lose it. All right, so there are two bolts that are easy to miss. They're all TX30s, but it's down this little hole. There's one right here that we're gonna go ahead and take out, and then there's one on the other side as well that we'll show you here in a second. All right, the other one is right down this hole. It's directly in line with the top bolt. It's just a little hard to see. So we'll get that one out too. Right now we're loosening the ductwork from the throttle body to the intercooler. This is, again, an ECS Tuning coupler, so the hardware is going to be a little different, but once we get this loose, we'll be able to pull the intake manifold off. So we also took out two little T30 Torx screws here, and then we popped this hose out of its spot. This next part is a little tricky, but we're just going to pull the intake manifold out. All right, so we've gone ahead and removed the intake manifold and stuffed the intake ports to prevent getting anything in those. Like I said before, we didn't have to remove the intake manifold, but doing so just allows us to see what we're doing and also show you in the video how we're gonna get everything done. The next step is there are three little coolant hoses that we're gonna pop off the water pump so that we can remove it from the vehicle. All right, so this is the top hose. We're gonna go ahead and pop that off here. We've also popped it off up here so that we can flex it out of the way and get more access to the lower hoses. All right, next we're gonna remove the 2 bolts that hold this shield in place, and that will expose the belt. All right, now that we got that shield out of the way, you can see the belt down in here. And next is gonna be 5 T30 screws around the perimeter. We'll show you where they are once we get the water pump out. All right, once we have the water pump free from the block, what we're gonna do is we're gonna push it to the left side of the vehicle this way to get the coupler detached. Once the coupler is detached, we can tilt it and slip it out of the belt, and then we can get to the electrical connector on the back side to disconnect it. And then it's out. We've got the old pump out here. You can see now a little more clearly the location of the 5 screws. Those are all T30s, and there is a specific direction that we'll show you when we go back together. The most important thing to note on these is going to be the O-rings, the seal in here, and the seal on the little coupler going together. They are very sensitive to lubricants and petroleums. They will swell, so we're going to only lubricate them with coolant approved for the product. And then additionally, if there's any oil leaks that are making their way onto the water pump, we are going to need to fix those as well if we want the seals to last a long time. So next we're going to go ahead and replace the little water pump belt right here. You can see there's a little pulley and it's caged, so you can't get the belt off without removing the pulley. So what we have here is we have a little wrench that's going to allow us to get to that bolt and loosen it. I've already broken it loose, but once it's loose, we can just get it out like that. Now it is important to note that this bolt is reverse thread, so instead of righty-tighty, it's righty-loosey. The other important thing to note when taking this pulley off is going to be that the engine does need to be locked in position. So the way we've done it here is we've put the vehicle in 6th gear and set it on the ground so it holds the engine in place through the manual transmission and the clutch. If you drive an auto or don't want to do that, there is a crankshaft pulley holder tool that you can use. All right, now we've got the belt capturing the gear along with a new bolt. It is a torque to yield fastener, so we are going to replace it, and we're going to go ahead and install it now. This is a little tricky, and it's important to remember again, the bolt is reverse threaded, so it's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. All right, the torque wrench for this is going to be 9 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. So it is important to note when you're torquing something with an adapter like this, it does change the length of the lever you're using to torque it. So normally you would need to use a formula to figure out what to set the torque wrench to get your 9 Newton meters of torque. But what I'm going to show you here is if we turn it to right around 90 degrees offset, the length of the fulcrum, the length of the lever from the center of the handle to here is about the same as the center of the handle to here, so we can get the proper torque without having to use any formulas or equations. All right, before we put the water pump on, we're going to go ahead and clean the block surface. This step is very easy to forget, but it's very important to do to make sure that we don't get any leaks. I'm just using a Scotch-Brite Brillo pad here to lightly clean the surface of any rust and old gasket material or any other debris. Once we have our new pump ready to go in, the last thing we need to do is remove these 2 bolts. That way we can put the black shield on after we install it. Before we put this water pump in, we're just going to rub a little coolant on these O-rings here to lubricate them to go in. All right, so just like we took it apart, we're going to slip the water pump into the belt on this side. And we're going to move it this way, And then as we line up to the block, we're also going to slip that coupler into the oil cooler. While we move into place, there are 2 alignment dowels. So once you have it in, as long as that coupler is in place, everything should be good to go. Now we're just gonna snug all of the bolts up by our fingers, and then we're gonna torque them in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. One thing to note when we are going back together, this wire that clips to the bottom of the intake manifold does like to sit right where the water pump is, so you need to keep it out of the way so we don't pinch it. And it also needs to be on this side of the little electric module here so that it's routed correctly. Last, we're going to throw this cover on, reinstall the bolts, and torque it to 9 Newton meters. Now we're going to go ahead and reconnect all of these coolant hoses, lock them into place, and then we're going to pressure test the cooling system before we put the intake manifold back on. All right, we pumped it up to about 15 psi and we let it sit for a few minutes. It doesn't seem to be losing any pressure, so we're going to go ahead and reinstall the intake manifold. Now that we've got it all back together, we're going to go ahead and pull a vacuum on the cooling system that'll both double check for leaks, and it will also allow us to just fill it using vacuum to make sure there aren't any air bubbles in the system. So what this does is it pulls the vacuum and just allows the vacuum to pull the coolant into all of the nooks and crannies of the cooling system. Now, if you don't have one of these, it is pretty easy to fill. You just top it up to the full line, start the car, and keep adding coolant as it drops. It's a pretty simple cooling system overall. That's the end of our DIY water pump replacement. You'll find the links to the water pump and some of the special tools we used in the video description. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more enthusiast content.